to wander too much, so I'll do my best. I loved Trinity's song. It reminded me, it was funny that it talks about movies. Anyone here a fan or not a fan of Groundhog Day with Andie MacDowell and Bill Murray? Best movie ever. Yeah, it ranks right up there in the top 400 or so for me. But think about that. What he does, for those who aren't familiar, is he gets stuck in this loop where his day repeats over and over and over again. And he is a cranky guy. Would everyone agree? He's a cranky guy. He is a greedy guy. It's all about him. It's what's in it for him, right? And as he finds that he's stuck repeating this same day over and over again, he first starts by wanting it to change and not doing anything to change it himself. Then he starts basically doing stuff to annoy other people. Yes? And then eventually he gets that the only way he's going to get out of this loop, or at least if he's going to be stuck in it forever, enjoy being stuck in the same day, is to start extending love and to start creating change in his own life. He learns to play the piano. He becomes an amazing dancer. He goes out of his way to help people. He rescues a cat, keeps people from jumping in a puddle, and on, yes? And that's what that reminded me of, that way we change, but only if we extend and are willing to receive something different. Does that make sense? So we have this vague title for today's talk, I Am Prosperous. The actual title for my talk is The Truth About Giving and Receiving, but we thought if we put that up there, not as many of you would show up today. So wait till I start talking about the T word. This I got very quiet and uncomfortable. What's the T word? Tithing, yes. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? Someone asked me once, why do you always have to talk about tithing? Why is your subtitle of your book, The Art of Tithing? That's, can't you just call it something else? And I said, I will call it something else as soon as it stops bothering people. Does that make sense? Until then, I'm just going to poke you. So how many people here think that they are very generous givers? You're a good giver. Not too many people. I was like, okay, well, we have a working audience then here. Okay. How many people think that you're a very good receiver? Okay. How many of you think that you suck at giving? Okay. You're in the right place. How many of you think you suck at receiving? Oh, many more. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a quick overview, okay? Giving and receiving are exactly the same thing. Now, most people think of it as opposites on a scale, part of a continuum, a cycle. They're exactly the same thing. Think about if you want to give someone a hug. What do you look like when you go in to give someone a hug? Like this? Okay. What do you look like when you're going to receive a hug? Okay. Exactly the same thing. What do you say when someone gives you a gift? When you're receiving a gift, what's your customary response? Okay, how many of you actually say, oh, you shouldn't have, but you just said thank you to appease me just now? Okay, there we go. The laughter of recognition, I love it. Okay, so we say thank you when someone gives us something. Even if it's not something we want, we say thank you, don't we? Yes, because we're polite. How many former Midwesterners are there here besides me? Awesome, we're very polite, aren't we? Yes, thank you so much. I just love this. And they're like, who can I give this to? Sweater vests. Who likes sweater vests? And what do you do? What are you really saying when you give someone something? If I give you a birthday gift, I'm saying, thank you for being born. If I give you a retirement gift, I say, thank you for all your years of hard work. If I give you an anniversary gift, I'm saying, thank you for putting up with me all these years. Right? We're always saying, thank you. So where do we get confused with that? Why do we suddenly start thinking that there's a difference between giving and receiving? And why do we think we're pretty good at giving in general? I liked your guys' honesty of admitting maybe you're not so good at giving. But why do we usually think we're much better at giving than receiving? How many would say you're better at giving than receiving, even if you think you're not such a great giver? Okay? And we think we're better at giving and receiving because we think we have some sort of control over the giving. Any control freaks here? Awesome! My people! I love when my people come to hear me speak. Okay, so we are control freaks. We want to control our gifts. And if you don't think this is true about you when you give, let's use some examples. If you give someone something and they don't say thank you, what's your response? Yeah. Or my favorite is the Midwestern version, especially the Minnesota version. You call up and you say, hey, did you get that thing I gave you? You know, because we want to fish for the compliment. You know, there's 10,000 lakes there, right, for a reason. We want to fish for the compliment. Or we decide, well, if they're not going to say thank you, I'm not going to give to them again, right? And if that's not a truth for you, how many people are on your Christmas card list last year that weren't on or won't be on this year because they didn't give you a card last year? You know, it's the subtle things. When you give something to a little kid and they, in 10 minutes, disassemble it into 14,000 pieces, bang it on the floor, break it into smithereens, what's your first response? I can't believe you did that. That was my hard-earned money. Well, that's the last time I give him a gift. You know, we have these strings attached. How many people think that other people attach strings to the gifts that they give you? When really we're the ones who attach the strings, which is a pretty easy concept to understand given the fact that we're all one, right? So we attach strings to things. I will never forget, I was working with a Unity church in Maryland, my home church at the time, and they were going to send someone from the congregation to Unity Institute to become a minister. And at the last minute, he wasn't able to go. They had paid for his airfare, for his housing, for his tuition, for everything. And so he decided, since I can't go, there's another person in the congregation who wanted to go, so I'm going to give her everything they gave me so that she can go. And people were offended. We didn't give the money for her to go. We wanted him to go. And I said, okay, so can you help me as a mediator? I'm like, can you help me understand this a little better? So start to tell me again the story. Well, we gave him, stop there. Tell me the story again. Well, we gave, stop there. You did what? We gave. Okay, so you gave. So now whose is it? Yeah, it's not mine anymore. It's his. And what he does with his stuff is your business how? As they say in North Carolina, it's none ya. It's none your business what he does with it, yes? But we like to make it our business. We give and withhold based on all sorts of different criteria. Whether we think they need it, whether we think they deserve it, what we think they'll do with it, how good they've been as a steward of it in the past, how much we think we do or don't have, how badly we think we might need it. Does any of that sound familiar? And a lot of times we don't even speak the same language. So when one person is wanting to give, someone else is wanting to withhold. Think about if I said, that is a beautiful shirt. What would you say? Thank you. Now, how many people would say, oh, this old thing? Or we'll go into the story of where we got it and how much money we saved on it. Right? Does that sound familiar? Okay. So we're speaking this language of wanting to give and then being afraid to receive. How hard is it for you to receive a simple compliment? I loved the daily word. Behold. Can we put that slide back up? Behold. Okay. Wait. Go back. There we go. I may find myself judging another person. How many times do I find myself judging myself? Okay. I empathize with others. How often do you not empathize with yourself? You make a mistake, and how often do you, I cannot believe you just did that. Would you talk to a little kid like that? Yeah, someone just said yes. I love the honesty of this group. We're like, I'm microscopically honest here. There's probably the kid in the audience saying that, right? Yes, they would. So what would happen if you let go of judging yourself and let go of judging things like, what if you assumed that everyone you ever gave anything to had already said thank you before you gave it to them? How would that change your dynamic? You give just simply to give because you've already been thanked. Because usually we don't hear it. They're speaking a different language. They might say, ooh, I love this thing you gave me. But because they don't say the words thank you, it has zero meaning for us. Yes? A great example in my own life is my father. 6'6", heart of gold, big burly construction worker. I had never heard the words, I love you, come out of the man's mouth for probably the first 30, 35 years of my life. And I said to a friend once, I was like, what is wrong? Why can he not simply just say those three little, it's like a guy saying, I don't know. Why can't he just say, I love you? And so my friend said, well, tell me what happens when you guys have conversations. I said, we'll go to end the conversation on the phone. I'll say, I love you, Dad. He'll say, take care now, kiddo. He was like, wait a minute. Helps when you talk to a guy about these things. That's dad speak for I love you. It's like, nuh-uh. So I decided to test it. So he goes to get off the phone. I said, I love you, Dad. He says, you take care now, kiddo. So the next time I said, okay, I'm going to wait for him. So he goes, you take care now, kiddo. I said, I love you too, Dad. He goes, It's like, we might be onto something here. So the next time I wait for him, he says, you take care now, kiddo. I said, I love you too, Dad. And he giggled. 6'6", he giggles. I'm like, okay. So the next time we're talking on the phone, he goes, I love you, kiddo. I said, you take care too now, Dad. You got to recognize when you're just not speaking the same language and learn to speak it with each other. So what would happen if you decided to give instead of to withhold? Who are you really giving to? Let's talk about the T word for a second, okay? Now, I have one minor slide. David called me up and he said, do you have any slides for the PowerPoint? I said, one. Usually, like folks who've heard me speak at Uni Boulder, I have like a 20-minute huge slideshow presentation. This is the simple version. I have one slide because this is an important talk. Okay, so I need to make sure I read it right. Anyone familiar with Malachi? Any Malachi fans in here? No Malachi fans. Okay. People are familiar with it, not a big fan. Okay, so here's the deal. Any Edwene Gaines fans? Yes? A few? So Edwene Gaines is an amazing prosperity teacher. She talks like this. She's from Mentone, Alabama. She's a very lovely lady. But I was listening to one of her recordings once, and I heard this, and I thought, did she just misquote Malachi? Because I don't know which versions you've ever seen. So I went home, then I checked out my Bible, and sure enough, I had been reading it wrong. Or I'd had a different translation at some point, apparently. So I'm going to read this to you. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse. What's the storehouse? That's the place wherever God's work is being done. It can be whoever inspires you. That there may be meat in my house. That's substance, yes? We all know about substance and unity. Okay, and prove me now herewith if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing so big that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Here's the challenge. Most of us have heard this scripture or seen this scripture where it says, if I will not open for you. Anyone recognize the missing for there? And what we think is, I tithe, and then God miraculously opens for me all these amazing channels of good that then bring things, woo, that's a live mic. Could have been a snake and bit me. Opens for you all of these channels, and all this good pours in, and if I'm not receiving, it's because I've done something wrong. No. Our tithing opens us up. Prove me now and see if I will not open you the windows of heaven. You become the windows of heaven. Think about how you feel when you give from that place of bliss. How open and loving and light you feel. That's you, opening you the window of heaven so that you become such a blessing that you cannot be contained. Think about that. You become such a blessing to this world that you can't be contained. And we always think that we can withhold somehow. You can't withhold your tithe. Whether you pay it here or somewhere else, or don't write a check, or don't put any money in a basket, anywhere, anytime, you still cannot withhold your tithe from God. Because God's good will find a way to where it wants to go and where it needs to go, no matter what. I'll give you a case in point. A long time ago, there was a rabbi who every year would take on 10 new students. And so he'd go down into the village from his temple, and he'd pick 10 new students, and they would vie, the parents would vie to have their son chosen to be one of these 10 kids every year. And one year, he decides to pick as his 10th kid this young man who, I swear, his only purpose on earth was to prove everything the rabbi said wrong, no matter what. So The rabbi's like, I want him. I want Mark to be my 10th person. And all the parents are like, no, pick my son. He'll be so much easier. You don't want Mark. Really? He says, no, this is where I want to put 10% of my resources this year. And you know what? I'm going to give him the most important job. He's going to be in charge of cooking my dinner every night. So everybody goes up to the temple. They're all hanging out. And every night at 6 o'clock, the rabbi sits down at his table with this look of expectancy on his face. And he says, thank you, God, for all of your hard work in preparing me my dinner. And then he would sit there, and the young man would bring him his dinner. And this happened night after night after night, month after month. And finally the young man's like, it'd be kind of nice if just once he'd thank me. I don't see God out there digging up the turnips and the potatoes. I don't see God going out chasing the chicken, and I don't see God slaving over the hot stove. So it's like, you know what? He thinks God's in charge of bringing him his dinner? Fine. I'm not cooking dinner tonight. So 6 o'clock comes. The rabbi sits down at his table, this absolute look of expectancy on his face. Thank you, God, for making me my dinner. 6:10, 6:15, he's still sitting there, that same blissful look on his face. The young man's like, does he not realize there's no dinner-making noises happening in the kitchen? There's no wafting of garlic or onions or chicken or anything. He's just sitting there. 6:30. There's this commotion in the foyer. And there's this man yelling, I must see the rabbi, I must see the rabbi. And so the rabbi gets up, walks over to the foyer. The young man kind of comes around, peeks around the corners. What's going on? And this guy says, Rabbi, I'm so glad to see you. He said, you don't know me. But last week, my wife came and prayed with you. She was very despondent. She was very depressed. And I don't know what you said to her, but she is a changed woman. She wasn't doing any of the things she used to love, and now she's back doing all of them. And one of the things she loves more than anything in this world is to cook. And she made you this 4-course dinner, and I sure hope you haven't eaten dinner yet. The young man was never again late with dinner. Why? Because you can't withhold. Now, and I got to tell a story on myself, okay? So my friend Carrie's here. She's an amazing baker. And we've been sending her cupcake recipes surreptitiously. And she posts this picture of these cupcakes and said she was coming to church and she was going to share them. And I said, ooh, don't put them out yet, because what if there's not one left by the time I get done saying hi to everybody at the end of the service? So there aren't cupcakes sitting over there because I asked her to withhold them. How's that for truth in action right there, right? See how insidious it is? I want one of the cupcakes and there's only 12 or something, and what if there's not one for me? Well, then I'll get to live vicariously through you guys that actually get one. It's so insidious that we get into this thing of withholding because we're afraid of missing something. We're afraid of missing someone's gratitude. We're afraid of missing acknowledgement, respect. What is it you're afraid of missing or losing? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to take? Like Bill Murray's character. What is it you're trying to get to change instead of looking to change inside you? We're so afraid of being small that we actually withhold from ourselves, which makes us smaller. We don't acknowledge our bigness. How many of you can actually say, I am prosperous, and mean it in every area of your life? Even if you only mean it in the moment you say it, it's important to say it. There's a wonderful Keb Mo song called I'm Amazing. Anyone familiar with that song? It's a great song. It's I am amazing. I'm incredible. I'm a miracle, a dream come true. And guess what? So are you. It sounds so arrogant when we state that, when we claim our bigness. But what would happen if you actively remembered that that's who you are? We do Course in Miracles downstairs every Thursday night, and it's not your typical, let's study this for a year Course in Miracles. It's a drop by any time. We're reading whatever section we're on next. We're doing whatever lesson we're on next. And we're coursing whatever's coming up in our lives based on what we're reading that week. So it's an active, living, breathing. How many people have been there, and how much do we laugh? It's an amazingly fun time. whether you've been there once or you come every week or whatever it is. And the group's always changing. It's very dynamic, but it's a recognition that we are love. This is who we are unless we choose to be something else. We like to experience new things. How many of you have that niggling feeling that if you get it and you recognize and you become that enlightened being that you will disappear from this planet? Yeah. When the truth is, no, you won't disappear at all. All your fear will disappear. All your worries, all your insecurities, all your guilt. How many people love their guilt? Come on, if you didn't love it, you wouldn't have it in your life, right? How many people still beat themselves up for things that happened eons ago? Okay? Something that we teach in the group all the time. It's become our own personal mantra. This is what forgiveness looks like. Does that look familiar from our hugging experiment earlier? Okay? Whatever it is you want to let go of in your life that happened in the past, I want you to repeat this phrase. Ready? It seemed like a good idea at the time. Let's put it all together. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Because if it hadn't, you wouldn't have done it. Yes? This is true. Whether it was to keep yourself alive, whether it was to try and get something, whether it was trying to avoid something, whatever it was, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Or we wouldn't have done it. So pretending that we're little seemed like a good idea at the time, yes? So far we've had fun pretending we're little? Okay? So what if you remembered that you were big? I have a niece who, my God, has just entered 8th grade. But when she first did this, she was about 3 years old. And my friend Kathy called me up and she was like, you've got to come over here because I think my child may have OCD or something. I'm like, what's going on? So she brings me over and she's got her little pink fuzzy chair in front of the television. And any time Kathy would mention a time when Aaron was little, Aaron would go, I'm big, I'm big, I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. And would do these little twinkle hands. And then she'd sit back down. So her mom starts saying, oh, Aaron, you were the cutest little baby. I'm big, I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. Oh, but don't you remember when you were so little I could hold you in my arm? I don't want to talk about it. I'm big, I'm big, I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. But you were just so cute and I loved to hold you when you were so tiny. I said I don't want to talk about it. I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. And I start laughing hysterically because I recognize exactly what she's doing. She's refusing to let anyone else, see, she's getting it, he's getting it, refusing to let anyone else define her as being little. Think about that. Think about what would happen if you refused to let anyone else define you as little. If you refused to play small so that somebody else would feel big. How many of us are guilty of that? Yeah, we give our power away so that someone else will feel better. What if we stopped doing that and we chose instead to affirm our greatness? Let's try this. If you're able, as you're able, stand up. We're gonna practice the Aaron principle, we'll call it, okay? Okay, are you ready? Remember, twinkle hands are very important. Okay? I'm big. I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. Okay, now you have to do it like you mean it. Okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm big. I'm big, I'm big, I'm big. Thank you all for the standing ovation. This is the time when we take up our offerings. Is that great? No, we have meditation for. So if you feel so inclined, just, put down anything you're holding. Close your eyes, relax. And I want you in your mind to take yourself to someplace that's very beautiful to you, someplace that's very serene and peaceful. And I want you to picture yourself being there by yourself. And just relax into that. It's a beautiful, safe, comfortable space. And as you sink into that serene, safe space, you recognize that you're not actually alone. There's this incredibly benevolent presence that's there with you. And you instinctively sense that this presence just wants to give you whatever your heart desires. That you can ask for anything, And the only response you will get is yes, as you wish. And so you ask for whatever it is you desire. You ask for peace of mind. You ask for health and vitality. You ask for clarity about a situation in your life. You ask for a sense of financial security, for enhanced joy, for an expansion of love in your heart. Whatever it is you ask for, the only thing this benevolent presence says is yes. And maybe you ask for something specific in your life, a healing of some sort, something you've been desiring to be or do or experience or have present in a visible form in your life. And this benevolent presence, again, only says yes. And even if you change your mind and ask for something contradictory, there's no judgment, there's no frustration, there's no sense of any kind of withholding of any form. There's just simply yes. Again and again and again, no matter what you call forth that you want from this benevolent presence, it gives it freely, joyfully, with absolutely no reservations, no hesitation. Now imagine that that benevolent presence is you. Whatever it is you've been longing to say yes to in your life, that you've withheld from yourself, that you've judged about yourself, call it to mind right now and say yes to yourself. Say yes to stepping into your greatness. Say yes to owning your power. Say yes to being that light and love in the universe. Say yes to the small things you say no to yourself about every day. Say, yes, I am the light of the world. Yes, I am a magnificent child of God. Yes, I deserve everything that I desire in my life. Yes, I am open to receive. Yes, I give gladly and joyfully to myself and to the world, because I am this benevolent presence. And imagine in your meditation that a mirror suddenly appears in front of you. And in your meditation, you open your eyes and you look lovingly into your own reflection. Steer deeply into your own eyes and say, I behold the Christ in you. I behold the Christ in you. Own that for yourself today. Own the truth of who you are. And let that joy, that childlike joy, carry you through your week. And as you're ready to come back into this moment, remembering fully who you are, let's join together in that with the Lord's Prayer.